Welcome to the Hunt Test Hobo podcast, your place for truckside chats and insights into the retriever game. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned handler, this podcast is another resource for tips, tricks, and insights from both the amateurs and professional trainers' perspectives. Each week, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of retriever training, sharing stories of success, overcoming challenges, and forging stronger bonds with our dogs. This is the Hunt Test Hobo podcast. I'm Chris Rudd, your host, fellow retriever enthusiast, and student of the game. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Hunt Test Hobo podcast. It is a beautiful Monday morning. And when I say beautiful, it's not scorching hot. It's not raining. It's just about right now in this beautiful morning. And if you can tell, my voice might be lower than normal because normally I do my recordings in the evening, but just because of schedules, we're doing this early in the morning, and I'm just waking up after not feeling great all weekend. So if I don't sound as enthusiastic, it is not because I'm not enthusiastic about this topic. I am extremely enthusiastic about this topic. It's just I'm a little sick, so bear with me. Before we dive too deep in this, I want to thank our sponsors, Purina Pro Plan. They provide all the food for the Hunt Test Hobo crew, and been with them for 6 years, feeding them food for 6 years now. Love it. Have had zero problems, as does my guest here today, not tonight. My guest today, Mr. Dan Ihrke, who feeds Purina to all of his dogs in his massive operation that he has. And then also want to thank the Hunt Test Guide for everything that they do to sponsor the podcast. And so that's most of all of our sponsors. Dan Ihrke, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm still trying to wake up, even though we've talked for like probably 10, 15 minutes. I've been chugging this coffee, and I'm still not firing on all cylinders yet.
But you know how it is. It takes me 1 hour every morning. Get up at 4, drink coffee for an hour, and then fire out of the house. But pre-coffee, not so good.
Yeah, I'm not quite an hour yet. I think that's the problem. It's like been 30 minutes. But anyhow, before we dive too deep into this podcast, this has been a podcast in the works for an extremely long time. Dan and I have been talking about doing this for a long time. And for those that know, I used to be an instructor on the Hunt Test Guide, which is Clark and Lyle's online video series. Clark and I were talking, and he invited me originally to be on the Hunt Test Guide to do a puppy course. And I said, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm the right person to do the puppy course. I think that needs to be Dan. So Dan and I were planned to be instructors on the Hunt Test Guide with Clark and Lyle. And I actually did have a video series out there, the Amateur's Guide to Hunt Test Success. And I know a lot of the listeners have purchased that. I appreciate that. And I hope it's been really beneficial to you. Well, through the little over a year and a half now of the course being online, both Clark and I and Lyle and pretty much everybody there have kind of figured out that having instructors in the Hunt Test Guide that aren't part of their core thing just really doesn't fit the business model for either side. So through a lot of time and discussion, we've decided to kind of separate the courses out, and I am no longer an instructor on the Hunt Test Guide. If you guys have purchased my course on the Hunt Test Guide, you still will have access to it forever. So there's no issue there. We're just moving that course to a new platform that is ran by Dan and I. So I am super, super excited to announce that retrieverfoundations.com is live, and it has 2 awesome courses on it right now. Dan's puppy course, Puppy Foundations, and then my course, the Amateur's Guide to Hunt Success. Man, I can't talk this morning. Woo! Dan, I'm going to get there. It has my course on it, the Amateur's Guide to Hunt Test Success. And I'm really excited. I lowered the price from $250 down to $175 for my course. So if you haven't got it because you thought maybe, hey, that's a little bit too high for me, it's much cheaper now, and you can get access to it. I think it'll help a lot of people. I've got great feedback from it. But I just wanted to start out by saying there is no hard feelings between Clark and I and anybody about us separating out from the hunt test guide. We have been talking about it for a long time, and it just didn't make business sense for either side for us to stay as part of their course. There's just too many challenges to do it that way. We both, both sides just wanted freedom, and there's no, Clark and I are still going to pre-grand train together. We're still super tight. We still send all the obnoxious retriever memes out there that I really got to get that retriever memes guy on this podcast, because his content is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, go to Facebook, check out retriever memes. His stuff is rocking. So good. Anyway, and then Tyler, who works for Dan, is running the Grand this year, and he's pre-training with Clark. And I wasn't even on the invite yet, probably because I have one dog, and they're not worried about the one dog guy. But Tyler's like, "Are you coming to the Grand?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, well, "How come you're not in the training group?" I was like, "I don't know anything about this pre-Grand training text message group." And so Clark calls me. He's like, "Hey, you're coming, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I had to do the group." I immediately regretted it. I like all the guys, but my goodness, it was like ping, 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 ping. Like I'm trying to work here, sitting in my office, and they're just going at it with stupid, funny stuff. But I'm like, dude, guys, I gotta work, so I had to silence them. And I texted Clark and Tyler, and I said, immediately regretted being added to this pre-Grand training group. So anyway, I just want to make sure that's clear. There is no bad feelings between anybody about this, about this change that we're doing. I think it's going to be great for everybody. It's going to give an opportunity for Lyle and Clark to really focus on what they do best, the more advanced training stuff, and then it'll allow, Dan and I to really focus more on the basics and foundations and transition, which we're both super passionate about. So without further ado, Dan, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks,
I think
buddy.
You're the most recurring guest. So glad you're here. Well, here in you're at least in Illinois together, but he's in his beautiful cabin. If you guys are ever in the area of Roberts, Illinois, which I don't know why you would be unless you're going to go see Dan and the team. But if you're looking for a good place to stay, Dan has a beautiful cabin that he rents out. So that's where Dan's at for those that are listening, which is probably not any good information at all for the listeners, because what are the chances that they're going to be in your area? But if they are, he's got a great cabin. It's beautiful. I've stayed there many, many times. Anyhow, Dan, why don't you tell me a little bit about the Puppy Foundations course and kind of, why you've been so passionate about it? Because I know we've been talking about filming this for at least 6-7 years. We've been talking about putting this together. So why has this been such a passion project for you?
Well, first, let me explain my background with the club very briefly. I've been training dogs for and at a hunting preserve for, I think it's 27 years now. And after training professionally for a short period of time, probably 5 or 6 years, I realized that I was taking an enormous amount of my time with puppy clients, talking each individual through all these different techniques so that the dogs would be started properly and I wouldn't have as much trouble and the training would be seamless. The customer would get much more bang for the buck. And so I started with a short pointing dog training system that I just made on my own, because those were the worst. When those dogs came to me untrained, it took me forever to get them on board with some of the training techniques. So I started with that, and I made just a real quick YouTube, and I knocked it out in literally one morning of filming and one day of editing the film. And it's one point after the other. But anyway, that worked out really well. And so then I was a pro staff for DT Systems, and I had developed the retriever portion of it, and I was able to convince them to film this short series. And so I did the same thing with DT Systems. And but when you do a video series, what you find is it's going to take many, many days of filming. And they had hired a videographer, and this videographer was only available a certain amount of days. So I had to pack way too much information in, several of these filming episodes. And so that didn't allow me really to convey all the messages that I wanted to convey. So it's a great, real basic series, but I always wanted to make it more inclusive, add a lot more details. And as the years went on, I came up with a lot of other techniques that I wanted to add to the program. So, for the last 10 years or so, I've really wanted to get all of my new ideas and then all that information that I wasn't able to get on the DT series onto a series such that somebody that didn't even know us, somebody that wasn't visiting our facility, could literally do all of these things with their puppies such that when they're 6 months old, they're really prepared. And let me just interject a little bit about being prepared for formal training with any retriever training system in the United States. Whether you're training the British methodologies, whether you're training American methodologies, the dogs have to learn to be problem solvers. Dogs have to learn to love to engage a scenario where they have to make a choice, knowing where there could be repercussions if they make one decision, and there could be rewards if they make another decision. Typically, dogs that are trained by the amateur or just brought up in a household where there really is no formal training, they tend to engage in encounters where there's a decision to be made, looking at it one-sided. Like, I'm hearing my owner say something. There's only going to be negative repercussions if I don't listen to this. Or the opposite. The owner's got a reward from me, but if I want something else other than that reward, then I'll just go do my own thing and enjoy myself. And so what we've done is built a program that teaches dog from the minute that they're being handled by their owner, that number one, when they come into this encounter where they have a decision to make, there is a reward, there's a motivating factor all the time, but there's also an unavoidable set of repercussions. Initially, it's a light amount of pressure. And then eventually, as the dog grows older, they learn that pressure will increase until they succumb. But again, there's a reward at the end of it on every one of these scenarios. So it teaches the dog, number one, to not avoid scenarios where they have to make a decision, and number two, to enjoy and look forward to and gravitate towards situations where they have to make decisions when it comes to being around their handler or owner. This subject matter goes from the basic obedience to marking scenarios, introduction to hunting, all the things that I have as prerequisites, such when a dog comes down to our facility, or any facility for that matter, they have a great training attitude, and they're ready and they're a student of the game, and they're ready to jump in with a great attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two things I wanted to say as you were talking here. And one is that DT Systems puppy videos that you did is the original reason that I even found you guys down there, is that I had saw those videos, I had watched them, and I was like, man, I got to figure out how to get connected. Because as a person who didn't know anything with my first dog, I was like, this is like, I'd seen a ton of different YouTube videos about here's how to do this, here's how to do that. And I watched a few others that have courses out there, but I couldn't really understand exactly what they were saying. But when I saw your version of the puppy, or I saw your series, that puppy series, I was like, man, I think I actually understand what he's saying. And I was like, man, this is like really, really good. Like, not so much it wasn't exactly like, I mean, food bowl casting was in there, which I had never seen. I thought that was really helpful, but it was just like explaining what the dog was thinking. And I was like, man, I hadn't heard anybody else say it that way. It was like, hey, if your dog does this, you do that. And there wasn't like this understanding of what the dog was really thinking. And you like slowed down and explained that. And I know it was only like 10, 12 videos or something like that, but it was really helpful for me just to get like a bigger picture understanding of how a retriever training should be done. And that's how I ended up finding you. Is I searched and I found out, like, oh, he's only an hour and 15 minutes away. I'll go down to his club and just see what this whole thing's about. And then the second thing is you were just talking about a lot about dogs learning to learn. The dogs learning to be a student of the game, and I think that is a huge missing component, right? Like if you listen to other pros on podcasts, and rightfully so, they will say, "Hey, all I care is that you socialize the dog a lot, get them really excited about being around people and being happy, and don't worry about anything else. When they come to me, I'll get them going on these training things." And it's because they've probably had so many dogs that weren't started right as puppies, and they people didn't have a process to go through, and they tried things and they actually did more damage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those pros are like, hey, let me just do my thing. When you get the dog, just keep them happy, bold, and if you can teach them to retrieve, great. That's kind of what you hear. And I thought that what I liked about the program that we've put together and the program that you've taught me is, I've now trained a few dogs for both Clark and Lyle as puppies. As soon as the puppies, whether I've bred them and just kept the dog and trained it and then gave it to Clark, or Lyle, what they say is, it's amazing that these dogs, when they get them, that they already know how to learn. They already know how to learn through the retriever training process, which is what you were kind of you were talking about there. He's like, I remember Clark saying like, "Hey, the dog," like, and he specifically Fang, who's in the video series, is Clark's dog, and you'll see points where the dog makes mistakes, and he has to figure out, okay, I didn't get what I wanted, I have to change my action. They change their action, and he gets that reward, which is you were talking about. And it's amazing how that simple concept, layered over tons and tons of different scenarios that you take these puppies through in the Puppy Foundations program, when they get to that formal training, they don't have a mindset of, I'm going to get in trouble. They have a mindset of, I want to do this right, because if I do this right, I get what I want, and it's always a positive. And if I run into something that I get stopped on, or there's a correction, they're thinking, okay, what do I have to do differently than the last time, differently from the last time, to get that thing that I want? And I've noticed it even more with these next batch of puppies that I've trained through this program, is no matter how you want to, like you always say, you want to keep those rungs of those ladders really, really tight. And as long as you do that, I am so amazed by this next crop of dogs that I have, that if they make a mistake, I almost don't ever have to repeat it 3 times. I repeat it the second time, and the dogs figure out what they did differently. And it's phenomenal, like how much better our relationship is, because all those things are consistent, and they just have learned to learn. That's the thing that I think in the end that this puppy program really does, because we do so much with them in different aspects that they just figure out, hey, if I try, things are going to be great. So
Right.
anyway, sorry, Dan, I kind of went on a little bit of a...
No, that's okay. And to add to what you're talking about, one of the reasons it works so well is we eliminate all other options for the dogs with the way that these steps are set up. So firstly, there is one simple nuance or new concept in each one of these steps, new basic concept for each one of the steps that we teach. So we're not asking them to make this quantum leap mentally. And then also we're eliminating really all options to do anything but really 2 things. Either do what we're asking them to do, or not do it and have some sort of repercussion. In other words, we've eliminated by the setup itself. For instance, having a leash on, being ready to stop, or in a pinch collar, we're able to physically stop your dog from doing the wrong thing, and then obviously having the other option available, which is for the dog to perform the task and then get some positive for itself. We set them up physically so there's really only 2 options. So it's very simple for that dog to make the decision that we're looking for. And, any good dog training program has that, but I think what is set aside with this one is the seamless nature in going from one step to the next. There are no missing rungs in the ladder, such that the dog almost doesn't even have an option of not learning it. And when you get a puppy that has been subjected to that consistent simplicity until they're 6 months old, their attitude is going to be, I want to approach this training scenario because I know it's going to be, number one, easy decision. Number two, positive outcome every time. And so you get a dog that's got that type of attitude. Again, he's looking forward to learning. He's opened his mind. He's focusing a great deal of his mental attention, or all of his mental attention, on what you're trying to get him to focus on, rather than having a percentage of it that's thinking about other things like, hey, maybe I want to go do something else. Maybe I want to bolt. Maybe I want to do whatever. We've created a scenario where the dog has opened its mind and is focusing on what we want them to learn because of all of their previous experiences and successes they've had during the training.
Yeah, the rungs of the ladder being really, really short, the learning ladder, I think is kind of a cornerstone for our production process in doing this. You know, as a filmmaker, in a past life, like that's all I did. That's why I think that I love this this course and this relationship we have, is because you have so much great information, and because I'm available, I can just come down and we can just film. I think we filmed 9 different sessions, like all day sessions, and we produced 192 videos. Like that's a lot of content of here. And like, cause I know we broke it down into micro sessions. I mean, the first day we filmed, I think we filmed like 40 something videos, but we were just showing the dog's process and learning the tiniest things. And I remember like there's one point you're like, oh, right there, that dog just made a connection. And you actually watch the dog like look up at you and realize like, oh, if I look at you, I'm going to get a treat. And it was just like this small little thing, but there's so many of those little nuances or those little things that we tried to make sure that we let people in on, and like, hey, look right there it is. That's when the dog learned, okay, this is too far, we've pushed too far, and we tried to leave everything in there. And as far as I know, I don't know of any other retriever course that is just for puppies that is 192 videos. I mean, it is a ton of content, and for the folks that we've like early released it for, have just been like loving it. So I'm super excited for folks to be able to get their hands on this content, because I, as a person who's a student of the game, like I've interviewed tons of people for this podcast, and I've talked to tons and tons of people who are super successful, and hearing from you all the things that you talk about in your puppy course and in other aspects of the retriever game, I'm like, there's nobody like Dan. Like there's nobody that is this good at explaining stuff. And as well as you've taken and you've improved on the base of a lot of the foundational retriever training methodologies, and you just added this little bit of stuff that makes it so much easier as like an amateur like me to have success. And like in my course, the Amateur's Guide to Hunt Test Success, we talk about, or I show very simple things that you've shown me, that's the stuff that I get the greatest feedback on. They're like, wow, I never would have thought double winger walk-ups would help my dog with steadiness. We're like, yeah, absolutely. You know, those little tiny things that you've added to the traditional retriever program that I think are just invaluable. And as a communicator, as a student of the game, I'm really excited for folks that want to get the course, that they're going to learn so much of probably, and even it doesn't matter what level you are, you're going to learn those tiny little things that are just going to make retriever training easier for you. So anyway, I'm super excited about it.
No, and I'm immensely excited about it because look, I am still extremely passionate about what I do. You know, I've got a string of probably 26 dogs right now, and I every day will have situations where I realize the new things that I've added to my program are making the next crop of dogs even better, happier, higher momentum, crisper control, and I will never stop. I will never stop pressing forward. That's one of the things that really, really makes me enjoy what I do and come back for more. And, you know, any retriever trainer out there knows, you know, this is not this is not a game of immense financial gain. Okay, you're going to work your tail off as a retriever trainer, and because it's always like that way, you know, I learned to be motivated by the enjoyment of watching my peers be successful. And also another thing too, to kind of make note of, so you can understand why maybe this course might be a little better than others, is my motivating factor, my positive reinforcement over the years is so different than a lot of retriever trainers. So let me explain. The average retriever trainer, professional, sees the pie in the sky when he first observes a guy with a dog trailer. He's going out there, he's getting ribbons, he's taking pictures of himself, and bolstering himself as this guy that just did all these wonderful things and got all these ribbons and made all these accomplishments. And that's what his motivating factor is. You know, I want to be the guy that wins the game, and I want to be the guy that everybody knows wins the game. Well, the difference is I've trained dogs for people that are hunters. And my success was not a ribbon originally. My success was how well did I train the dog, and then how well did I train that owner to handle his dog, because I'm not handling most of my dogs, the original ones that came through my place. They are handling their dogs, and if they don't do a good job handling those dogs in front of all their peers hunting, I'm not going to get any more customers, because what they see is the dog performing for the owner, not me. So what all these other onlookers see in the field is, hey, is that dog either doing it or not without my presence? So I better do a darn good job training people. So I spent many years in learning how to convey the ideas that I've taught the dog, the training methods and the techniques to owners. And then, of course, as I advanced, I had to train other trainers because the business got big enough. I trained pointing dog trainers. I've trained retriever trainers. I trained obedience trainers. And then I went out on the road and I did a lot of work doing demonstrations for both our business and the Pheasants Forever program, teaching kids how to train dogs. And when you teach kids how to train dogs, you have to make it one more notch more simple. So that's why when we did our filming, you know, we were able to knock out that many videos in one session because it's archived here. I can pull these out that fast because I had to do it so many times that all the answers come naturally. So, and I hope that the people that are observing these videos are able to actually put this into use with their dogs and able to get success quickly and keep their puppies happy and get on the right road.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have two different dogs that we go through, two different puppies that we go through the course with. Can you talk a little bit about each one of them and how, you know, their temperaments and such?
Absolutely. So we had Fang, and Fang is a traditionally bred hunt test, high-end SRS style hunt test dog. So this is the kind of dog that's capable of doing field trial work, UKC hunt test work, AKC hunt test work. Obviously, being a great hunting dog, it's like the ultimate high-end do-it-all dog. You know, bred out of a line of dogs that have been able to accept and thrive under, you know, their normal American style training, which we all know involves e-collar and pressure. Now, the other one was a British Lab who was bred out of lines that have been bred for hundreds of years of not using the e-collar, but also being able to thrive in situations that are extremely distracting, yet do the work with probably less of that type A control. In British Labs, typically, Now we're changing the breed since they've gotten here and breeding ones that are a little different. But typically when you get a British Lab, they're more sensitive to pressure, and you have to be much more careful with that part of the program. So the reason we got the two separate dogs is so we could physically allow people to see. These methods work for all retrievers that have any sort of good breeding. And these methods can be used with just by changing the amount of pressure you use, can be used with all different dogs with all different levels of sensitivity to pressure. And you'll be able to watch in the video, both dogs thrive and do very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to first continue to talk about, like, I know this podcast is us talking a lot about puppy foundations and this course, and though it might sound like it's like an advertisement for the course, it really is a passion project for you and I. It's been like this thing that we've been like wanting to get out, because I have just been to so many hunt tests where I'm like, man, if that dog had just went through the puppy program, they would be a completely different dog for this person. Like, looking at some of these, like a lot of these really, really high strung American breeds that you see them at the hunt test game or even hunting, and you're like, these dogs are like out of control because they didn't go through the formal process of what they should have went through as a puppy and into that next level of retriever training, like what we call retriever level 1, where it's like, hey, this is just the foundations of what you need to do. It like, just seeing how much struggle they have, I was like, man, I can't wait to get this course out, because if people want access to the information, I want it to be there. That was the reason that I was so passionate about doing this, and why I spent the time driving down there and then worked on the editing and helped with the show. I mean, it took us a year just to edit all the content. It's just so much stuff. And I want people to really hear my heart in all this, is that, like, I've had Pat Burns on the podcast last episode. He has a retriever training course and program out there. Clark and Lyle have those. Like, I don't have any issue with, like, I support everybody that's putting out online content, because I feel like you always are going to learn something from somebody. And I feel like my goal as a person who runs this podcast is to curate great thought leaders in the industry. And to me, you've always been one of those for me. And you've always been that person that really got me started. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to help you present all of this information that helped me have the success that I've had, because yours, like, whenever I talk to people are like, well, how'd you get started? I say, well, everything I've learned foundationally is from Dan. And there's been things that Clark and others that have taught me in the more advanced spaces, but from that basics of retriever training, it's all came really from what you've taught me. So I want people to really hear that, why this may seem like it's a very like advertisement focused podcast. Well, because it is, because I believe in this. I believe in what you've put together. And on top of that, if you're looking for a way to support the podcast so I can keep bringing, all these other people on, this is it's not free for me to run this podcast. So I would really appreciate, folks, if you would consider purchasing any of these courses, because it really helps us or helps me continue to bring these this content to you all. Dan, sorry. So I just want to interject with that, because I feel like, I'm very guarded of the people that I bring on the podcast, because I want to make sure that I'm bringing quality content. So I just wanted people to hear that that heart message from me. What was one of your favorite parts about producing this content?
I would say the fact that when we did the sessions, obviously you couldn't live at our place and be there to do. Remember, we have 2 puppies, and we did this in live time with real puppies, right? So we were filming what, if in an ideal sense, would be, hey, Chris, I want you to come down once a week with these dogs, so we can catch everything. Well, we couldn't quite do that, so we had to cram a lot into each video session. But the wonderful thing is because of how you'll see when you watch the series that we do these micro sessions, and we We compartmentalize everything. We were able to do what I would send home with an owner as 3, 4, 5 weeks of work in one day with those puppies and have the results. Firstly, being they were 2 great genetically set up dogs. Okay, they were out of good bloodlines, both British and American. But the methodologies are that simple and set up for learning and that efficient that we literally could get those lessons in 3, 4 weeks of lessons in one day, and the dogs understood and performed through those. And when you go into one of those scenarios with 2 puppies, you don't really know what you're going to get. We all know having puppies, sometimes they have a bad day. But I was really, really thrilled with how much those puppies learned in a short period of time with the process, which means that I think people that are not professional handlers, when they take this series, they have a great chance of success. So it warmed my heart in knowing that. And hanging out with you also was great. I mean, this is one of those deals where the meeting you was extremely organic, right? You just saw the DT videos, showed up at my place. I thought, hey, this is just another dude with a dog that's out of control. And from then, it worked into a great relationship. You got your first dog trained, and then we became friends. Your average client or my average client, they're interested in getting their dog to perform. And that's pretty much it, and they appreciate what you do. But you're such a passionate individual that has such a high level of desire to learn everything. That I think it made you appreciate your relationship with me a little bit more. And because of that, I appreciated yours. Somebody is able to see the difference between, different trainers and efficiencies and all the different things that go with it. So it's been a very positive relationship. And I love doing these. I go into them and I do these on my day off. And you would think that, considering I work 6 days a week and a lot of hours, you'd think that I'd go, okay, I got to drag myself over to the cabin and do another one of these podcasts. No, I'm up at 4 thinking about how fun it's going to be to talk to my buddy about what we love to do. So,
yeah. No, I really enjoyed some of the funny, or not really funny, but it was like, I was like, hey, have you ever tried it this way? Because it was like something that I had learned. I was like, have you ever tried it this way? And you're like, yeah, and it doesn't work. I'm like, what? Why? And then you'd explain to me why, like 3 steps down the road, it didn't work. He's like, I tried that. And then there was some that I was like, hey, have you tried it this way? And you're like, oh yeah, I haven't tried it that way. Let's try it right now. And then we did it and it worked. And I'm like, all right, I added one tiny thing to the program right there. One tiny thing, So it was the
nuances. It never ends. So this is a great subject matter, right? So I always tell people that there's 3 different levels of proficiency that anybody gets at any sort of technique with anything. First, the learning stage. Okay, and I equate this with the dogs too. They're literally learning what the concept is, and what the positive ends of it, the negative end of it, and just literally learning what the scenario is. And then step 2, now you've got the individual, referring to a person like you that's a dog handler. Step 2 of learning to be the technician is you're going through the motions. Like, in your mind what you're supposed to be doing, but you're physically exercising it. So you're practicing. And in that practice, you make mistakes, and then you also have epiphanies. And during that period, you're becoming more efficient at actually getting the job done. And then the third stage is you become a master technician. And when you're a master technician, all the basic stuff you can do with your eyes closed. Like, you can have a conversation while you're doing this. Like a master dog trainer can literally reinforce, change their attitude, simplify, whatever it may be, while they're having a conversation with somebody. And what that does is it frees up another part of your brain, because one part of your brain has already got it to the point where it can almost go on autopilot. Now it frees up the other part of your brain to observe what you're doing, almost like from a satellite view. Observe what's going on and think 1 or 2 levels ahead. Well, what if I do this? Oh, this makes sense. And I bet you if I add this, it'll probably help the scenario. And so once you get to that point, which obviously you are, Chris, you're able to take, and that's what I tell all my dog trainers, when you get to this level, you'll be a problem solver yourself. You won't have to go, I need to go back to Dan to ask him what to do about this. You will have all of the fundamentals to understand how to analyze what the problem was with the dog and how to make your own solutions that the dog can understand, your own training steps. And you know that you've reached that level when you're coming up with new material. And it's ever changing too, because, you know, the whole retriever training process has very basic concepts for a trainer to understand, and then much more advanced concepts as you get along. So you'll become a master at varying levels throughout this thing. You'll become a master at the basics. You'll become a master at the transition. You'll eventually become a master at advanced. And then you'll become, you know, and for each one of those levels, once you become a master, you'll be able to add little nuances, new other training steps in those. So it really is a long process for you to be able to actually come up with new concepts all the way at the high end. So it's a never-ending learning process. That's why a lot of us keep doing it, because it's fun. And there's always a challenge.
Absolutely. And so for people who are listening, what's the outcome that they can expect if they purchase this course and then follow through with these steps with their next puppy?
So just from giving you a very direct answer, when you're finished, your dog will be doing off-lead obedience. It'll be e-collar conditioned. Your dog will have a great attitude about the fun and the enjoyment of expressing their instincts to retrieve, meaning that they're going to really intrinsically love the game of retrieving. They'll also be ready to be force fetch. So we will have eliminated as many bad habits as you can pre-force fetch on retrieving. In other words, some dogs will actually be giving you a delivery. Some dogs will actually just be bringing the object to the point where you can put your hands on the dog, right? But they'll be doing it consistently and happy. And then we'll also, because of the pre-force fetch things that we do, your dog will be ready to engage immediately in the forced hold aspect of force fetch with a positive attitude. So we'll get the dog ready. So you're taking out all the pre-force fetch stuff, and literally that dog will be ready to be force fetch. If you're going to use a table, it'll be happy on the table. If you're going to do it on the ground, the dog's going to already be understanding that, yes, we're going to put our fingers in your mouth, and you can't get our fingers out of your mouth until you calmly hold our fingers. All the things that you do before force fetch will be ready, so your dog will be able to seamlessly jump into the transition there. The dog will be already water conditioned and doing water retrieves. Your dog is going to be gun conditioned. Your dog is going to understand how to pick up a bird, how to come back with a bird. Your dog's going to understand how to use its nose to find a bird and cover. Your dog is going to understand how to mark, how to go through over long distances marking, how to go through basic cover changes marking. Your dog is going to understand how to walk with you at a basic level, how to walk with you for their own purposes, on their own volition to the line at a hunt test, knowing that it will be something they look forward to rather than something they despise. And they'll have a motivating factor to walk with you to the line in a hunt test environment. The dog will be socialized to a hunt test environment, so it's not worried about anything, guns, hides, anything that you might run into in the field.
And I want to add in right there, they're going to already know how to be good citizens in that hunt test environment, because we introduced it to them in a very controlled environment, which I think of any mistake that I see amateurs at hunt test is they don't do this part, and it causes so much long-term frustration.
Right. There's nothing worse. This is what I was going to interject earlier in our conversation. There's nothing worse than being at a hunt test and observing a guy that, I'll just give a scenario. You got a retired guy that's busted his butt his whole life so he could buy this great retriever. And he's watched some of the professionals out there, and he's done his research, and he's bought this dog out of fantastic genetics. And he's really worked at trying to do all this on his own. And you see him walk up at a seasoned or a finished test, and his dog is totally capable of doing all the hard work, but he doesn't have any control. The dog is beating him to the line. The dog is dropping birds, chewing on. The dog marks like a fiend. All the talent's there. When you look at the dog and say, oh my God, what a waste. This guy didn't do his foundations right. And this dog will never, and I repeat, never perform at a hunt test properly, because he took him there before the foundation work was done properly. He exposed him. The dog developed bad habits. The dog realizes that when he's at a hunt test, there is no control. The dog doesn't believe in the system. The dog has, everything is upside down. His attitude is, I want to get the bird. I could care less about you. Okay? That dog is done finito. And this poor guy that had no bad intentions and tried to do all the work right ended up in a scenario where he's never going to be able to get that goal that he worked so hard at. That is frustrating. It's heartbreaking. And I'm hoping that these videos that we're making, this one and then our basics course and our transition course, can help people enjoy the fruits of their labor rather than to have this catastrophe happen and this heartbreak.
Yeah. I mean, you said that so much more elegantly than I tried to earlier. That's what I was trying to say. It's so hard to watch that, man. It's like hunt test after hunt test, standing in that holding blind, and you're like, man, if they just went through the foundational work, and to me, I believe this. I believe it's just access to information. And I love the podcast because we can talk about very intricate subjects matter, and we can have a really good time doing it. And you can become very heady, like very, very, very book smart and stuff. Like you can be really book smart, like through a podcast. Like you can talk about a lot of really interesting things. And as you get into that master level, intermediate, advanced, and master level understanding of the retriever game, like podcasts are super helpful. But to me, the best thing to do is to be with the person, to go do it like I did with you, where you're there, you're being taught one-on-one with the master. But that's not practical for 95% of the folks that listen to this podcast or want to do retriever games. They can't always be with that person learning. So the next best thing is a video series that they can see, digest, and really learn. Because like to me, I like Bill Hillman's been on the podcast. A lot of my advanced training concepts come from him, from his video series, because I was able to learn through his video series a lot of the things that I knew I needed to go to that advanced level field trial work. And it all worked well with all the things that you had taught me. But I learned all of that through a video series. So that's why I'm so passionate about this project, and what we're doing here is to give this to people in a way that they can get the accelerated understanding of how to do well at that hunt test, how to stand confidently in that holding blind before you walk out, and not be thinking about, is this dog going to beat me to the bucket? Is this dog going to yell and scream? Like all those things that are like, the things that scare you so much as an amateur when you're walking to the line. I think it just creates such a strong foundation. And that's why we really named it Retriever Foundations, because we were trying to come up with a name. Okay, what is the thing that Dan is, really good at? What is the thing that I hold a lot in the value of what my dogs can do is like, I want to have a strong foundation. And I'll just interject with this one story. So there's a gentleman that at Sharon's, who is Sharon's bird tech. He throws birds for Sharon every day. Well, because I get there early before the day starts, he throws birds for me. And so he's been able, and he um he worked for one of the top derby trucks in the country right now for 3 or 4 years, and he just left, and now he's working for Sharon. And he's been throwing birds for me for I think it was like probably 4 weeks. He was throwing birds for me and watching Autumn and these 3 puppies I have. And he's like I've never seen dogs learn so fast through what you're doing. And it's all this puppy foundation work that we're showing in this video series. I've never seen a dog learn so fast. He literally said Autumn is the best dog he's ever seen. And I'm like, okay, that's probably because that's, you're being nice or whatever. But the point was, he's like, you are so diligent for the basics and for the, and I was like, yeah, that was like, he could say all these other things about how great the dog is. Him saying that I'm diligent for the basics was the best compliment I could have gotten, because that to me is where everything starts. And that's where you hear all the time on podcasts, go back to the basics, go back to the basics, go back to the basics. And that's so true. And that's really what we did, is we went back and showed like, here's what you can really do with your dog in that, 2 to 6 month period that will set them up for so much success. And I want to say this too. Like, people, when Winter, was the youngest dog to get her grand title, they asked me, what did you do differently? And at first it was hard for me to answer because I didn't know anything different. Then we do this puppy foundational work. We do this, the retriever work that you showed me for basics. I didn't know anything different until I started to actually train with other people and realize, oh, these dogs are just socialized at the beginning, and then they start their formal training at 6 months. I'm like, man, you lost 4 months of like the best time to teach a dog a lot of things. And, all the food bowl casting work I did, all the foundational steadiness, like, and another massive compliment is I gave Winter to Clark to go take to her third or fourth grand. I can't remember. And he was like, at first he's like, well, this dog probably isn't, like, in his mind, he'd never seen her ran. And I was walking her up to give it to Clark. And he told me, he's like, well, she's, since she's so young and past the grand, she must not be a fire breathing dragon, is what he said to me. And I was like, oh, well, here, have at it. And she sat there so calm for him, watched her birds, and he sent her name, and she was like, boom. And she was flying. He's like, holy cow. He never would have thought a dog that has so much power and horsepower would be able to do so well, because for them, it takes them so much longer to kind of rein them back in. With the puppy program that I went through that you taught me, it never was an option to be out of control. It's just, this is what you do. And to me, that was the ultimate compliment for him, to be like, wow, like and that's why he asked for this program to be part of the Hunt Test Guide originally. It was because he was so impressed with, the foundational work that was done on Winter. And I firmly believe, like, the reason that she was able to do so well is because of all of the handling drills that we do with these puppies, the food bowl casting, the place board casting, the actual true bumper casting that we do, all before they get to their formal training starting. And I believe that we're getting probably 70% of what you would do in the first probably 4 months of the dog with formal training. You're just doing that, 4 months earlier. So really all you're doing is and you get to retrieval level 1, which is what we call force fetch. We're going through the formal retrieve. All that work is like done except for the formal retrieve part, because we've already done all of that. So you can move to the transition so much faster. The dogs progress so much faster if you do this puppy work right.
Yeah. For those of you that have never had a dog formally trained, or gone through the formal training process, we're referring to the period where the dog gets force fetched, he gets e-collar conditioned, and we began to be able to do off lead work with distractions, and we're getting deliveries on their retrieved, and we're beginning to work on handling and lining. Every one of those procedures involves teaching the dog how to escape or avoid pressure by doing something. It's called compulsion training. And a well-trained dog, and this is where what I've really realized over the last 3 or 4 years is there are a lot of these processes that are out there that are not that work for some dogs well, and other dogs that's always a struggle. And the reason is they are number one, the dogs haven't been set up to understand pressure before they start well, and they just get thrown into it. But also the procedures themselves could be a lot more seamless. And so this puppy program, again, a great deal of it, which is new to a certain extent, is teaching dogs in so many different formats and venues of how to be presented with a concept and understand if they do it, they get positive first. So creating a great attitude like, hey, I'm going to get something if I do this. But then also that for each one of these, every one of these techniques, we teach an avoidance method where the dog has to escape pressure by doing it. And it's fun for them because, first of all, it's very light pressure initially. And secondly, there's always something positive in form. And there's really no way out of it. The dog is not going to look at it and go, well, I could go over there and pee on a bush. I could run and go see the neighbor's dog. I could do that. All that's taken out because of that scenario is set up so simple. So when these dogs get to that formal training process, that's been part of their life for 6 months. And all of these different procedures, whether it's casting, whether it's lining, whether it's steadiness, whether it's marking, whether it's having fun running back at full speed to your owner and wanting to please them with a dummy, whether it's entering the water, every one of these situations is addressed. And so you're jumping right in and you're way ahead of the program. Specifically, the most important part is your dog can thrive through that inevitable pressure that will be applied during the formal training anywhere. And, let me tell you this, British training, American training, look, every one of them is going to involve some sort of pressure. Whether it's getting stopped with a leash, whether it's getting tugged with a leash, whether it's being restrained physically with your hands, they're all, and some of it's just mental pressure. Hey, the dog does it wrong, and you say no, right? That's not zero pressure. That is a mental stress that the dog goes through when he knows he's displeased his handler, depending on the personality of the dog. But all of those are pressure, and we're teaching the dogs that, again, hey, you're going to be presented with a learning scenario. It's going to be fun. There's no way out of really those two options. Do it wrong and get a little pressure. Do it right, get a lot of praise. And it is just an easy format. And when they go into formal training, they're going to just take off like gangbusters.
Yeah. All right, we better wrap this up. So the two things I want to talk about before we wrap up. One is thank you all for listening. And I encourage you to check out, obviously, the Retriever Foundation's website. It's got the 2 courses, and Upland is coming soon. We have completed all the filming for the Upland course. We're just in the editing process. So we're hoping that in the next, I'd say, month and a half, 2 months, we're trying to make sure we get it so that done early enough that if you want to use it for, getting prepared for the Upland hunt test season coming up, that it is available for you to get that course as well. So we're working hard on that. And second is this course is $50 off starting today, and it'll go till the end of the day on Friday, August 22nd. So you can get $50 off the course if you go and you purchase it now, and it has free previews on there. So if you want, you can go sign up for the free preview of Dan's Puppy Foundations course at retrieverfoundations.com. You just put your email in and you'll get access to the entire, I think it's like 40 something videos for the first day of formal puppy training. So you can get all those videos for free. Check it out. See if it's something that you really like. And if you like Dan's teaching style, if you do, you can just go in and you can purchase the rest of the course. And if you do it before the 22nd, it's $50 off. which is a huge deal. I mean, it's a significant percentage off. And then, like I mentioned, my course is available. Also, if you're looking for a great way to support the podcast, you can buy my course or Dan's course, doesn't matter. It helps me be able to fund these, all the stuff. I mean, like I did the math. I spent like $150 just to go and see Bill and record Bill Hillman's 2 episodes, which I know people really, really liked. So it does cost a little bit to host this podcast, and it would be, really, really appreciated. If there's content on the Retriever Foundation's website that would benefit you, just know that it really does help keep this podcast going as well. So like I said, $50 off before August 22nd, and there's free previews for both courses on retrieverfoundations.com. Dan, thanks for being on. Is there anything that you wanted to kind of end with, or did we kind of cover it all?
Not really. I mean, I'm so excited to be able to present this material. It's been looming there as an idea and a project forever, and just to be able to announce this is exciting. So congratulations to you and me and all of those people that buy this. I'm so excited to help you on your way to success with your dog, and God bless everybody, and rock on, baby.
Rock on. All right. Thanks, everybody.